There was a listener from our last show, iKicks76, who wanted to ask Eric a question about James Harden. So I'm going to read his full comment to you, Eric.
Okay.
Can Eric elaborate on a player's perspective for showing up 2 games and disappeared for the most important ones in the playoffs? I assume he's referring to the Boston series. What was that specific NBA player thinking during a playoff series, or was the other team just too good?
Is he talking about the team thinking or an individual as he's playing?
I think he's talking about Harden.
More individual, or he's talking about Harden?
Talking about Harden, I
Harden,
believe.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough. I mean, it's tough. Not tough to kind of answer. It's tough to kind of firmly know in particular with James, because I'll be honest with you, it's guys that are involved in the NBA that have told me that they are adamant about that the reason James struggles late in the season is because of his lifestyle. Like, they're firm on that. And I've always said to them, hey, I know tons of guys that had unhealthy lifestyles, and they were some of the top players that ever played in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's hard for me to just pinpoint that one thing. So I do feel it's more mental than we think. If a guy's having success and then all of a sudden you get to the playoffs and historically you started your playoff run and it didn't go well, then all of a sudden that triggers, that comes back. So I'll give you an example with me. I struggled with free throws early in my college career, and I never realized where it came from until I got a little older in college, and it came from me missing 2 free throws my last high school game, and we lost by 1 point on the buzzer beater.
Oh, brutal.
So I never, you know what I'm saying? Like, I never put it together. But when I was put in the position to make the free throw in practice, I did it. But in the game, it was just like I didn't have the confidence. My rhythm was off, my stroke, everything. I couldn't do anything consistently. So I do believe that you got these guys that are really talented, really good, but you get into a situation where you've not had the success and the pressure seeps in. I just do think that sometimes you never know how people handle it. I think that some people shy away from it. Some people just kind of can play through it. I think from James' standpoint, I don't think he shies away from it, but I do think he gets hesitant. And I think that with his game, if there's some hesitation in his game, you'll see inconsistency. And I think that's what you get. I would think it's more that than his lifestyle or anything like that. I do think he has some hesitation where he's not as aggressive as he is during the season, especially like when he was in Houston. You would see him not take as many shots or pass up shots, like things that he like uncharacteristically was doing in the playoffs that he didn't do in the regular season. Mm-hmm. Like, where'd that come from? So I do think that it was something maybe in his career where the lack of success, and it could have been something that was younger. We don't know. That when that time comes, you know, it just makes him a little more hesitant, and I think the hesitation hinders his consistency.
Plus, he's had it's not new. He's had a lifetime.
That's why I said that if you look historically, this
great games and really bad games.
It's historically, it's been, you know, sort of, and I've seen games with James that it was going well, and then the fourth quarters it just drops off.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you don't know. I like I said, I had guys they're like firm. When I say firm, they're firm that it's his lifestyle.
And it catches up in the playoffs?
Yes. Firm. Like, no changing of the mind. Firm. It's his lifestyle. He's hanging out, this and that. You're getting, now all of a sudden, you know, and I do know in the playoffs, scouting is totally different. It's no back-to-backs. You're playing a team, you know, 4 to 7 times. so they can key into your weaknesses a little more. They can game plan a little more. I do think that James was a really hard player when he was playing at that high rate. He was a really hard player to game plan for one game. So I do think
reffing's caught up.
That's what I'm saying. I do think that the one game, you may not even talk about. They probably won't even talk about how they're defending James until shoot around. Whereas now you go into the playoffs and you have a week or so before you play a team and you can dissect it all and game plan and play it differently. So I do think that has something to do with it. Like the style of play, to me, makes him he can put up numbers and he can dominate, but it also makes it easier for defense to game plan against him because he's always with the ball out top. That's the easiest guy for every defender to see. So everybody knows where he's at. So everybody can lock into where they need to be, in the position they need to be, where the double's coming from, where the rotation's coming from, and it's in front of everybody and everybody can see it. Versus a guy that's coming from behind the defense, and by the time he catches and you looked, he's probably already done caught it and went into his move. That's different. That's what makes Steph Curry so, because you don't know where he's at. And by the time you catch it, he's either shooting or he's moving because he's constant movement without the ball. But now with James, he has the ball up top, so it's easier for defense to sit in. That could be another reason too. So basically, I don't know, but I'm giving you.
Well, you did a good job answering it.
A couple intriguing, possible ideas.
I also think too, he may have understated in the question. Like he said, he showed up in those two games. He did more than show up. I mean, those are two like career top 10 playoff performances for Harden. Like he had amazing games where he was just on. Like James couldn't miss.
Yes.
In some of those games, like in the fourth quarter, he was showing up. He was just on, right? So I don't think he is it's not just showing up for him. For me, showing up is just doing your season average. Give me 21 and 11. That would be showing up. But he wasn't even doing that when he wasn't on. He was doing like incredibly inefficient, poor shooting.
Yeah, but that's the thing about it is like when you are on his level and where you were at James' level, I may say, it's needed for them to win, for him to stay at that level.
The high level or the 21 and 11?
The high level. Okay. It was needed because that's the amount of volume and percentages that he has the ball. It was needed in order for them to succeed. Now you can get away with, James was 20 and 11 or whatever, 19 and 11, whatever. You can get away with him being 15 and 12 or 15 and 13 and win. Because it goes through Joel.
Yeah.
So that's the difference. Some of it is him being the guy versus not being the guy. Like so now I tend to give James more slack now than I would Joel. But I've always said, if you think back to the last couple of years, I've always said with James, as long as James has been a Sixer, I've always said it's the timely plays and it's the timely taking over that we'll need.
Yes. Like he could have had a bad game in game 6, but if he showed up in quarter 3 or 4, we might have won that game, even if he had a bad game.
It's the timely plays, timely possessions, timely shots.
Plus, it's unfair for him that Embiid's struggles also magnify his struggles, because then we're like, all right, James, we need you.
As I said, but you looked at his history also, so it's like, oh, here we go again, James. You know what I'm saying? So some of it, and I'm like, look, man, if AI didn't play well, if AI didn't shoot well, we got to figure out a way to win. You know what I'm saying? Like, we still got to win the game.
Yeah,
that's what everybody else got to do their part. So if Joel don't play well, everybody else got to do their part. But if AI didn't play well with us, it wasn't like one guy's getting more to heat. It was collective a little more. You know what I'm saying? Whereas now, if Joel don't do his part, it's
all eyes on James.
James or especially with Teja, Tobias make too much money. You know what I'm saying? Like we move it from one
Tobias
person
did
to
have
another.
I think he had bad games 6 and 7.
I'm just
But yeah,
saying, we're moving from one person to another instead of collectively.
Yeah.
You know, collectively, we'll eventually get to collectively, but that's not, choice 1, 2, or 3.
Mm-hmm.
Well, especially when you trade for a guy, you bring him in to be like, okay, you're the guy we need if he doesn't do his job
Yeah,
right.
well, I mean, and then Doc would get more blame than the collectively and all that too. So.
True.
Yeah. So that was a good question by iKick76.